Yeah, now it's recording, and then you can stop it if you don't need to record or pause it or something like that.
Okay, you want me to hit, I'll hit pause. All right, we're recording. All right, well, Kartika Nair, welcome to Fitness and Consciousness. Thank you for doing the podcast.
Thank you for having me.
And thanks for teaching me about Zoom and how to do this by video with remote guests. This is something I've been wanting to do for a long time, so it's very cool to start that with you today.
Most welcome.
So I first came to know about you from your YouTube videos several years ago. And I remember you were like sitting on your roof, and then you just got done meditating, and you're telling people, you're giving people these messages of like spirituality and like personal growth. And where did you start that? Where did that start to happen from you? Because you were doing this at a young age.
Right. So first of all, thanks for having me. Thanks for asking a good question. So the whole YouTube thing started back in 2011. And before which I was watching a lot of different spiritual channels online, and I was inspired by them to talk myself, but then I didn't have the courage to, as many people, right? Because you're coming in front of an audience, you have to talk on the video. So I didn't have the courage at the time, but then I appeared in a Canadian woman's YouTube channel. And when she featured me on her channel, people in her audience said, "Oh, why don't you make a channel yourself?" So that's how I ended up starting it. But my spiritual practice or the path began very early on, and I had one of those life experiences that most people have, which is bullying and depression and anxiety and suicide. So that was my background growing up. So because of the inner negativity, nobody who is young thinks of going into spirituality and personal development unless you're in that sink or swim space where you either live or you end it, because there was too much. I was very sensitive, I was always bullied, and I'm very tiny as a person. I'm like 5'2", so things were kind of not that good when I was growing up. So I just needed some sort of a solution. That's how I got into spirituality. And as most spiritual people, there's a lot more to your senses than just the five senses. You sometimes have a lot of intuition and, insights. So when I was a child, I was very interested in, metaphysics and trying to understand how sometimes you dream of something and then you experience it in reality, and things like that kept interesting me, and that's how I jumped into the books and studies from when I was about 8 years old. So my journey began when I was 8 years old, and then it kind of grew and eventually became the channel in 2011.
Yeah, I remember who you were talking about. I think she changed her name, but it was like Manithya Sudevi, right? And
yeah.
I saw
Now
her videos, and then I saw you from her. So that was a long time ago. I think it was when you were pretty new at it. So
yeah.
you were now you were are you Hindu? Because I think it seemed like you had that you were, but you weren't necessarily teaching from, or maybe you were teaching from that perspective, but you're not trying to tell someone else you should be a Hindu and do Hindu stuff. It was more like, this is what you can actually do to help yourself right now, just where you are.
Exactly. So I was born into a Hindu tradition, but as a person, I take from all traditions. I don't particularly have an association with any single religion, even though Hinduism is not a religion. It's when the British came, they kind of, categorized people who practiced Hinduism as Hindus. Hinduism is actually just a way of life. Just like you practice mindfulness or you practice brushing your teeth in the morning, it's just a way of life. So it has nothing to do with religion as such. And in Hinduism, God is everything, just like many traditions, they say that God is in all things. I can put a picture of you in my altar and worship you because God is within.
I see it. It's like paused for a second.
Video is okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sorry, my video paused for a second. I missed like the last 10 seconds. I don't know if it looked funny from your position, but
Yeah, you froze. You froze suddenly.
okay. Yeah, I could still see myself moving, but you kind of froze too.
The
Would you mind
internet.
repeating what you just said in the last like 30 seconds? Sorry about
Yes. Yes. So I was talking about how, religion is, so I personally don't, pursue or talk about a certain religion. I take from all traditions, all kinds of traditions you can think about. I try to learn from everybody. So I don't bring a religious, standpoint to my teachings at all, because I'm not a religious person. But
that.
I am a spiritual person, and spirituality is in the essence of all teachings. All of them comes to talk about certain roots, certain things that are common to all cultures. So those are the things that I like to practice and talk about. But I don't, like I said, I was born Hindu, but I don't identify with the religion or anything like
Yeah, that's really a good way to look at it. That's kind of how I see things too, is like there's like all these religions are okay and there's a lot to learn from them, but you're kind of better off just like finding your
that. Yeah,
own and figuring out like your own way and seeing how you can I think about like the kind of the ripple effect that we have. And like as you walk by somebody on the street, you can either smile at them or you can give them a mean face, or you can, and that'll change their life a little bit for that,
yeah,
just for that moment anyway, maybe.
yeah.
And or you cut somebody off in traffic, or you let somebody go, you stop to let somebody cross the street. It can be like, oh, that was cool. That's, and it can, all these like little things can make a big difference. And so like your nickname or your other name is Synchroshakti. So I thought that sounded cool, and that was like one of the things that like I think attracted me to your message. Like, what can you explain? Where did the name Synchroshakti come from, and how did you, like, what's it mean, and where did you get it?
Okay, so it has no actual meaning. It's not like it's my name or something. I mean, as far as I can remember, I just woke up one morning and decided to rebrand my YouTube channel or start a new YouTube channel. I don't remember. This is like back in 2011. And I just came up with the name Synchroshakti because synchro stands for synchronicity, right? What Carl Jung and all of them spoke about, the numbers and creation and manifestation. And so back in that time of my life, I was interning in some media company, and that entire time of my life was, I was so up in the air, spiritually speaking. I was not grounded. I was always up in my higher chakras, always connected to some weird energies. And I used to attract a lot of synchronicities. Like I would think of something and it would manifest, or I knew what somebody was thinking, or weird higher realm experiences. So I just, I was so used to the concept of synchronicity that I put it in my name. I mean, in the channel's name, Synchro. And Shakti is Sanskrit for energy. It's like the life force. It's we consider it female energy, but it's just, generally you can talk about energy. So the force or the energy that's bringing the synchronicities into my life, I put that together as Synchro Shakti. So it has no special meaning. It's not some spiritual name or something. It's just something I came up with just to brand myself a lot better. When I say brand, I didn't know at the time that this Synchro Shakti channel is going to become a brand.
Yeah.
I just started something like, out of fun. I wasn't thinking 10 years down the line. But that name just, it just took on from there, and it just grew from there.
Yeah, when I had thought of it before, I was thinking almost like music, 'cause you were like always playing guitar and singing. So I was thinking more like like in sync and like synchronized. Like I was thinking like music, but then I think it was just, and I've known about you for years. I was going to look back to see when our first messages were, but they were a long time ago. And but I'm like writing out this uh, like a talk that I'm doing, like a TEDx talk, if you're familiar with those. And it's on signs and synchronicity. And so I was like thinking about that, and I had it almost done, and then I had some things change in just like the last couple of days where I'm like redoing it. And then I was thinking of this podcast with you and your name, and I was like, I wonder if she actually means synchronicity. That would be kind of cool. And so that is what that means. And so when you have the how do you think these because I have like a lot of these synchronicity experiences also, and other people might like just dismiss things as a coincidence. So what do you think people could do to, if they're like open to this idea of synchronicity, like meaning something higher, like it means that there's we're not just here to like, we go to work and then we pay our bills and then we go to sleep and then we wake up, and like there's like something else, there's some like spiritual reason for us to be here, which is kind of like what it tells me. It's like I'll be having like a difficult time, and then I'll like have this little thing happen that's special. So like, how do you see it, and like how can people maybe like get in sync with the with the universe giving us these signs? Or do you see it differently, or what's your...
Yeah. Okay. So first of all, everyone has their own little 2 cents on what synchronicities mean. Some people believe it's a message from the angels, and some people believe it's the universe. And so everybody has their own take on it, which is subjective to them. To me personally, when I see synchronicities, it's telling me one or two things. The first one is if I see numbers all the time, it's kind of like a higher self of my own, kind of, manifesting that as a sign to let me know that brace yourself because change is coming. There's some big change that's about to happen. And more often than this is my subjective reality. I'm not saying this is the truth, objective truth of what synchronicities are. It's for me, I notice as a pattern that in the past, every time some big change was happening, I had to level up in order for me to meet life head on. I would get these messages. That's what my thing is. But in terms of what I would advise other people is, I think everybody has their own spiritual alarm clock. Everybody has their own alarm clock, and my job is not to let anybody know. Can you pause the recording for a second? I
Sure.
just need to do something real quick. Yeah.
Okay, we're back on.
Yes. So I was talking about how everybody has their own spiritual alarm clock, and our job as teachers is not to get them to awaken to these higher messages, because the universe works through everybody. So everybody has their time. Like, I'm sure you may know people 5 years down the line, they just never knew what spirituality was or connected to it. But now, suddenly, these guys are talking about spirituality, and the Facebook feeds are about spirituality. And you're like, whoa, I wouldn't have imagined this guy suddenly waking up to this stuff. And my entire university, when I was in university, all of my classmates were spiritually closed off. But now, today, 90% of them are, talking about spirituality. I didn't do anything, right? So
Yeah.
I feel that the consciousness of the world is changing, and that's moving through people, and they're kind of awakening to it themselves, and they get their own answers through their own journeys. So those who resonate with my teachings will come to me. Those who resonate with somebody else will go somewhere else. So I don't feel like I should give them a message, but they have something within them that teaches or guides them themselves. You don't need external people to tell you the truth. You know the truth within you, and that's what our job is, to help you look back within yourself. So.
Yeah, I'm 100% with you on that. And like I'm a strength and conditioning instructor, and I teach like from like very young kids to old like old people, seniors, and And what my motto is, I want to show you your strength. I don't want to, and like I have like real strict technique, even like with the kids, I have like a test to pass, and the most of them don't pass. And I don't say that they fail, they just didn't pass yet, because this stuff is really strict, and it's the same standard as I would have for a 25-year-old man as far as technique goes. I'm not worried about the weight they use, but it's like I want to show them their own strength. And then so I have like all these like strict rules for some things, but then I call my style like freestyle kettlebell training, and because I want like them to learn this good foundation, but then I want them to start making up stuff. And so like the level 1 test is here's exactly how you do things, and then level 2 is like now you have to make up your own complexes and put these moves together your own way by yourself and see what you come up with. And even like one of my students, he's very regular, like 9 years old, and he was like making up stuff. I'm like, that's really good, and I put it on Instagram, and I'm like, I bet that this technique, once he polishes it up, is going to be something that experienced kettlebell users. I don't know if you're familiar with kettlebells, if you've seen any of my stuff, but I think experienced kettlebell users are going to start doing the stuff that this 9-year-old just made up. And, he made it up kind of like variations of other things, but throwing his own. So it's like, that's cool. That's because I'm not trying to say I have all the answers here, but I think you do. So you have a lot to learn from. So with the synchronicity and the numbers, are there certain numbers that keep popping up for you, or?
Yeah, but I don't think too much into it. I know people who will text my phone the moment they see numbers and they're, what does this mean? I don't think too much into it. For me, it's everything comes down to one thing for me, and that is mindfulness, right? It's the practice of not identifying with your mind and all its noise and what does it mean and where am I going, and that's an unnecessary noise. So what I like to do is just flow with it. If I have to release some karmic debt, I'll do it and move on. I don't think too much into it, but the numbers that I do see is 11 11, 2 to 2, these same numbers repeating itself. Those are the numbers I see, not too many different ones. But many of my synchronicities are not number related, but events. It's like I'm thinking of something and then I take the newspaper and that exact word is there, or I'm saying something and then the exact name has been spoken on the radio or whatever, right? So things like that. Or oh yeah, this happens quite often, which is not a synchronicity as such, but it's interesting. And that is, I will sometimes know what somebody is about to say before they actually say it. So that could be a little clairvoyant thing, which everyone has. I'm not some psychic or some special person. Every one of us has, our brain is very complex and very powerful. So it's like an antenna, to multiple channels across the universe. So of which we're using a small amount because we don't know how to tap into the other aspects. So we all have it, it's special. But I definitely feel that those are the ones that I have the most. It's these random events that take place.
Yeah, are you like alluding to like third eye opening, clairvoyant kind of things? Is that how you see it?
Yeah, I mean, your third eye is related to these higher powers, I would say, but that's not something I teach or actively practice or anything like that. Like I said, my work comes down to mindfulness, and mindfulness is a very grounding practice. It's very detached from Kundalini yoga or Shaktis or energy. It's pretty much the practice of observing your mind and your emotions and being pure, the observer all the time. Like right now, I'm talking about my life, but I know I'm not my life or my name or my stories or my experiences. I'm that silent witnesser behind all of this that's kind of watching right in the background. And that's where I like to kind of stay. So when people come to me, I know a lot of people love the science of Kundalini and energies and powers, and that's great. But for me personally, in my journey, I see that as a particular part of your journey when you're getting excited to learn more about, the energies rising and things like that. But at some point, I just moved past that and came to this silent knowing and freedom from, because you could have, in India, we have a lot of yogis, right? Yogis are the guys who practice not just physical yoga, but, powers of the mind and energies. So we have a lot of yogis who do, really crazy feats. Um, some of them have magical powers and some of them can hold their hand up for like 50 years. So you guys, you have these guys, but then even they are so stuck in their ego. You know what I mean? Like you don't come to their show and don't appreciate their special powers. Even they start feeling upset and get annoyed and have fights. And so for me, everything comes back down to, can you observe and dissolve your ego? And that is liberation for me. So yes, it's, synchronicity and all of these things are cool, but if your ego is attached to that and you're still suffering, and when someone says something, or you're still hurting when, you don't, your money, something is happening with your finances, then you're not free. And I think the basis of spiritual practice is to first become free and then explore everything from there. That's my perspective. I'm not saying that's the objective, but that's how I choose to go about my life anyway, because I don't want to have all these magical third eye powers and not be able to handle myself when somebody criticizes me or something like that. So
Yeah, that makes sense to me. And maybe like we get these little, if we're on this like spiritual path and we're putting effort into whatever it is, and we get these like little treats along the way, like, oh, you're doing good. Here's this little bit of, here's this real cool synchronicity for you, or here's this really cool event that's well beyond chance. You have this incredible experience, but then it's gone.
and
And
then it's sad.
what's that?
And then we get sad, right? It's
Yeah.
like,
And then if we start to chase it, which even though I know better, I will still like sometimes chase these experiences. And my birthday was April 27th, so it was just a week and a half ago, last Friday. And I went out to this park, and I was like expecting, like a big thing for me is like woodpeckers. My dad died in 2005, and he would always take me out to the woods since I was a little kid, and he would always try to show me the woodpeckers out in the woods, and he could see them from far away, and I could never see them. He was trying to point them out to me, but I couldn't see them. And the day after he died, which is in 2005, and the day after he died, I'd had some friends over training in martial arts. I was teach martial arts, and when we were done, we were in my driveway, and I was trying to talk to my friends, but there was this bird that was just like demanding my attention. So I'm like trying to listen, and then I'm like looking over at this bird and trying to listen and looking over at this bird. And I asked my friend, I was like, "What kind of bird is that?" And he said, "That's a woodpecker." And I was like, so it was like my dad visiting me, showing me this, and then I became the one that can see woodpeckers from far away. And I've had all these events, and that's partly what my TEDx talk is about, is this woodpeckers, my dad, and so on. But so like on my birthday, I was like, okay, I'll go out to the woods where we used to go. I'm going to have this cool experience where, this woodpecker is going to come to me, and it's going to be this super cool thing. And it didn't happen. I went to a tree where we buried my dog, and I was like, I'm going to sit by the tree, and then a woodpecker is going to come, and it's going to be so cool. And I was sitting there like in the tree. It was like this 4-trunk tree, which my dad said those are sacred. And in the middle of it was just kind of like dirty and muddy. And I was sitting in the middle of inside the tree. I'm just waiting for my profound experience, and no woodpecker came. My butt gets all wet and muddy. It was raining, and like where was my birthday present? But really, if I would have just like, okay, it's my birthday. I'm out here in the woods where my dad and I used to go. I'm by the tree where we buried my dog. That's it. I don't need something else to happen for it to be.
Actually, you said something that was really incredible. You said, I was waiting for that magic to kind of unfold, the woodpecker would come. but not realizing that the mind is looking for the woodpecker. But if you quieten that down, in that moment in the forest, you would have experienced the most profound oneness with all things. You know, we look at God as some external, separate being in the sky who decides our fate, you know, but God is that energy that's moving through all those plants and that tree, and it's you are closest to the mystical in the forest than you are, you know, disconnected from that. That not that you're disconnected from the source. It's just that the more the mind is active, the more we are away from the source. So even with like law of attraction, and we're trying to attract certain things into our lives, we're so much in our minds, and we're kind of blocking ourselves from the source from which all these things are coming from, you know. So the more you are in that present moment and in the oneness with all things, the more you realize that you're not separate, and you and the woodpecker is one and the same, and you and your dad is one and the same, and you're all connected, and so it's all there in this moment. So I find that, you know, it just the couple of weeks ago, about 4 weeks ago, I went to this forest. No, yeah, it's a forest. It's an elephant tiger reserve,
Oh,
and this was not in the touristy side of the reserve. This was where the actual tigers and the leopards and all of these guys live.
wow.
And only people who have access there are the guys who, you know, when the British came, they used to have farmland and plantation in the middle of the forest. So we kind of rented out this place in the middle of the forest, not where any humans are supposed to be. And at night, my dad took me to the cliff, and all the lights were switched off. And it was the level of pitch darkness. I had never seen this ever. And around me, I knew were all the wild animals, right? And I should be so scared because I'm, you know, surrounded by, at any moment, a leopard could come, right? And I almost cried because I think I did cry, I just probably didn't show anyone. But I felt so connected to the source of creation, being in that pitch darkness, than I did when the sun is out and I can see the trees and stuff, right? Because my mind was quiet. The moment it got dark, my mind kind of quietened down. I just felt that oneness with all things, and I was not scared of a leopard coming in, you know, because I felt one with the leopard, you know what I mean? And
Yeah.
it's so profound. It's so profound that it genetically affects you, you know. It's like maybe my grandchildren might have, you know, oneness experiences because of the one I had. So these are the kind of experiences I think are beautiful. And even when you manifest something you want into your reality, let's say the woodpecker did come, you would be so present that you would truly enjoy the presence of the woodpecker instead of thinking, oh, when is the next time it's going to come? Or, oh,
Yeah.
it didn't come as quickly as I thought. You know, so when the mind is quiet, I think you access that space where you're all powerful, and from there you can, you know, do whatever you want and enjoy your life. But when we're not in the moment, and we're too much up in all these, you know, exercises and tools and meditations, and then we disconnect ourselves, and you know, and then we have a lot of, like, there are people who do a lot of kundalini yoga who are not grounded, and then they lose their minds. They just aren't able to stay calm anymore, you know. So you've got to start from the grounding, and then roots to the leaves, and you know, and above. That's how I feel.
Yeah, yeah, I'm with you on all of that. We just kind of get, you make sense. You speak about it very clearly. And when you're talking about being around the tigers and the leopards, do you know what a shikiri is?
A shakiri?
Yes.
Is that an animal?
It's a tracker. So my Shikiri is how you would spell it in English. My the where I do my classes is called White Pine Wilderness Academy. It's a wilderness survival school, but the owner of it, Matt Scholl, his grandfather lived in India for 20 years in the jungles, and he went there as a missionary. And his job, it was the security is a government job where he had to track the man-eating cats and kill them. And
That's a shikari. In Hindi, you would call it a shikari.
Shikari.
Is a hunter.
I'll trust your pronunciation better than mine.
But in Hindi, it's called shikar. Okay, shikar is somebody who is a hunter. So
Yeah.
shikari is that who hunts.
Shikari. Okay. Yeah. Okay.
Maybe it became an English word afterwards.
No, I'm sure you're pronouncing it right, and I'm sure I messed it up. But yeah, so he would. I mean, it was his job for 20 years, and he's like, I mean, just imagine like I mean, you would know better than me. I've never been to India. I'd love to go. It's like the one place in this world where I really feel like drawn to for some reason, like the.
Oh, your video went again.
Yeah, you kind of froze up.
Okay, so
okay, I can see it now. Yeah.
Yeah.
Am I good now?
I'm not on my actual Wi-Fi. I'm on a different Wi-Fi, so it's not as strong as mine. Yes.
Yeah. I think it's been pretty good so far. I messed up a couple times, no big deal. But anyways, so my buddy's grandfather was going. You know, these man-eating cats there might kill 3-5 people in one small village per week, and maybe one leopard, he said, might kill 100 people. And so as his like this position of the shikari, that's better.
Yeah.
Was like
you're gonna have to pause again. I'm so sorry, but the bell just rang. So just pause it.
Okay, we're back on. So and he was talking about how like one of them, I guess, was kind of like famous as like man-eating leopard of Sibir, and sometimes the cats would kill someone but not take them off right away, and they would come back for it. So his grandpa would maybe like climb up a tree by this dead person and wait for the cat to come. And I mean, just imagine the kind of pressure of, you want to get the cat before it gets somebody else. The cat's not bad. He's just like maybe old, too slow for wild animals, or injured and too slow, or so they respected the cats. But to have that kind of awareness, that's what, when you were talking about being out there and you're with your dad, and you know all these things around you could just at any moment, but you're somehow present. So is there a like your mindfulness and your groundedness, is there like a name of it? Like, where did you get it from? Is there a name for the meditation or the name for the mindfulness besides mindfulness? Is there a
No, I mean, I know everyone's expecting some fantastic Sanskrit name or something like that, but no, I actually, I studied mindfulness from an American teacher. I think he's American, Eckhart, right? Eckhart Tolle from, and he wrote, he wrote The Power of Now, and that book, I'm like the evangelist of that book because it changed my life, right? So ever since he spoke about presence and learning to be mindful and not identify with the mind and your emotions, it changed my life, because before that I was suffering with panic and anxiety, and this is what got me out of it completely. No medications, no CBT, nothing. I just did mindfulness and I healed 100%, which is crazy, because for a panic and anxiety sufferer to even think of a life of freedom, and it's just crazy. So I just studied his books. I studied all his lectures. I also studied another teacher who goes by the name of Muji. I'm sure you might have heard of him as well.
Yeah.
And so these two teachers and few others, they all point back to yourself, right? A lot of teachers want to take you away from you and go towards them, which is kind of disconnecting you from your source, the beingness, your connection with. So you don't need an external person to connect you with a higher being or a divinity. You are one and the same. It's an expression. It's like the sun and the sun rays. You don't need something to connect the sun rays to the sun. It's all, we're all together here. So for me, these are the teachers that allowed me to come inside, and the common term for it is mindfulness. So I just use it that way. But mindfulness actually comes from Zen Buddhism. And Buddhism is an offshoot of Hinduism. So I'm sure that there are, Hindu terms for this, but I have not gone to explore that so much to know the exact terms and stuff. But this is just mindfulness. That's all I can say. But when I say mindfulness, it's not just the techniques of sitting down and focus on your breath. That's not what I mean. And that's what a lot of people think, because I teach mindfulness batches, right? Every month I'm teaching a new batch, and it's a 5-week batch. So when I have to tell people to join this batch, a lot of people believe that mindfulness is something as surface level as what you see on the internet, or just sit down and focus on your breath. That is like the drop in the ocean. That is the mindfulness, right? So mindfulness is this lifestyle, or a way of life where you are constantly in connection with that presence, and you're constantly being aware of the lower self, the ego, constantly dissolving past pain. So it's a lifestyle. So it's not just a technique or a tool or a meditative practice. It's something that's far greater. It's something that puts you at a state of liberation if you keep practicing. And when I say practicing, I mean more like being. It's not like you have to sit down every day and do certain things. It's not like that. It's just the more you do it, the more presence you have. And the more presence you have, you're just automatically kind of living life in that free state of being, than having to do a tool. Or, like I'm a coach, right? So on my desk right now, I have tens of books and tens of tools and tens of content that can help anybody mentally. But for them to have that experience of seeing something far greater, you don't need tools. You just kind of need to be here and now. These are the principles that are lifelong. It's not just a practice.
Yeah, I would call most of what I do is, I guess, Zen. I learned from my jujitsu teacher. He's probably close to like 70 years old now. I started there about almost like 20 years ago. And like we would meditate for 10 minutes at the end of class, just Zen meditation. And he would say like something like, sit like the Buddha. And then he'd like say like, well, it doesn't have anything to do with Buddha though. Or it's not like, it's not religion, it's not Buddhism, it's not that. It's like, he's like talking about sitting like Buddha, but don't worry about what Buddha's doing, or something to that effect. And he's like, forget about Kundalini. He does talk about like the micro cosmic orbit and the Tongans. And I've come to be able to like feel the microcosmic orbit. So I've proved that in myself. And so that like just the Zen, the being aware of like the mindfulness just in the moment, or just like how you like take a drink of coffee or tea or something like that is like I think that is.
Yeah, I think what he said something is really cool, which is, so the word Buddha is actually not his name. His name is Siddhartha Gautama. Buddha is a title. So in Hinduism, we have Paramahamsa, Supreme Swan. Okay. In Buddhism, you have Buddha. In Christianity, you have Christ. Now, Christ was not his second name. Christ was a title put for the Christian one, the awakened one. Buddha is a title for the awakened one. Paramahamsa is a title for the awakened one. What did they awake to? They awoke to the illusion of separation, right? They awoke to the oneness, the pure awareness that is all things. So when someone says be like the Buddha, what he means is be aware. Then, but most people get confused and they begin to think that we must worship a God figure, we must worship the Guru, or we must worship Buddha or Jesus. It's actually the other way around. Jesus, he said, I am the way to salvation. He didn't say, I, Jesus, am the way to salvation. He said, I am, which is the awareness before, Ryan, right? So before you say, I am Ryan, you take away Ryan and his history and his life, he still exists as pure awareness. Like when you were a baby, before someone told you your name or your history or your religion, you were pure awareness. That state of pure awareness is the salvation. It's the kingdom of heaven, right? It's within. It's not some external place. Of course, I'll be very controversial when I say this. You can edit this out if you want to. But
you can say whatever you want.
So the Christ, Christ consciousness, Krishna consciousness, all of this is pointing. They're like signposts pointing to consciousness itself, which we are all a part of. So that state of liberation is what I'm sure your master meant when he said be like the Buddha. Like Bruce Lee used to talk a lot about this, like be like water, right? And water flows and water takes the shape of whatever you put it in. So water is fluid and water does not get affected by the shape itself, right? So it's kind of like that. Awareness is the foundation you should build everything on. Like a lot of people, they get very irritated with my channel, my YouTube channel, because I teach law of attraction. Because a lot of people who do study law of attraction are still coming from that ego place of desire, and I need this and I want this, and they're still in that mind space, and that'll keep causing more suffering. But when you come for my, like, if you were my client or you were working with me in my mindfulness stuff, or even studying law of attraction under me, the first thing we would do is separate the mind from awareness and see, okay, awareness is like, you don't need stuff to be happy, but if you so are inspired to move in a certain direction, you can control your mind and use that tool, because the mind is a tool that was given for a reason. Why would it be there if we didn't have a use for it? So you can use it and create, but it doesn't come from that ego place of I need to have that new car to show my boss that I'm not whatever, right? It's not that ego place. So we always come back. Our foundations are always in mindfulness, and then from there we go into experiencing life as much as we can through creating positive experiences and stuff like that.
Yeah, that's really good. I really like how you explain things. It's just very, very clear. So you're when you get into your music, and sometimes you're doing like mantras, and then you were getting into really into reggae, and it's interesting that like from a lot of people from like the West in America, they think spirituality got to go to India. I want to go to India, and I don't know if it'll make me more spiritual or not, but for some reason it's like the one place on the planet that I'm like really drawn to. I have like a bunch of books that are like Indian, and I have just like for some reason I've been fascinated. I got my first 2 yoga books when I was 15 years old at a Grateful Dead concert about Krishna consciousness, and like by Prabhupada. You familiar with Prabhupada? And so I had a couple of what's that?
Srila Prabhupada, that's his whole name. Yeah.
Yeah, and so I had a couple of his books, and I was just amazed by like the pictures, the paintings, and there's like little Krishna and everything.
Sitting, lying down, and like the lotus.
Yeah, and it was like the more you look at the picture, the more you can see. And it takes a long time to look at this little picture. It takes a long time. And you can keep going back to it. And, oh, I didn't notice that. And so I knew that you can't just have a painting like that without spirituality behind it. There was something real behind that. Otherwise, you can't just do that. But when I forget what I was going towards. Oh, but you're from this the motherland of spirituality, but you're talking about Eckhart Tolle and Muji.
Yeah.
I think he might be in. I think they both are very familiar with Indian stuff. But you're.
Yeah, they both are. Yeah. Actually, so yoga and spiritual traditions, at least the ones that you've been reading, they come from here. You have amazing teachers from this country, but this is where this origin was. But just like, and there is still a lot of pockets of real deep spiritual teachings in India, many parts of India. But that doesn't mean that you assume that the Indian people are spiritual or something like that, because we've all been hit by modernization. And in religion, so religion has kind of brought people too much into the external idol kind of let's do these rituals, but not really go within themselves as much. So as any religion, it's always the god is outside and we must pray. And so of course, religion started in the spiritual roots, but it kind of got disconnected over time, and power structures started coming in, and we have that patriarchy and all of that. But there is a lot of beauty still in India. When you come down to India, you must go to these temple towns where you will find, authentic teachers and yoga teachers, and that's 1% of the actual teachers. 99% of them are not authentic, real teachers. That's just how it is anywhere in the world, right? If I go to Silicon Valley, I see so many Hindu teachers or spiritual teachers, but not all of them are, authentic teachers. This is how the world kind of is in our, we call it the Kali Yuga, right? Kali Yuga is like the age of darkness,
Yeah.
and then we're moving towards the Satya Yuga, which is the age of enlightenment. So during the age of darkness, there is ego, right? And ego always seeks power. So these things are, pertinent everywhere in the world. But the books you've read, even Srila Prabhupada, um, Yogananda, like I have these stuff on the wall, like you can see, right? These are like sayings by Yogananda. I've studied a lot of the Yogoda teachings. I've
Yeah,
studied.
I like him a lot. Yogananda, have you seen Awake, the documentary? I know you know a lot about him anyway, but there's a documentary called Awake, and
No, but
it's
I'm not. Is it about his book, the autobiography?
it's kind of, yeah. I've read the book. I've read Autobiography, and I've read a few of his others, like there's a lot of the smaller ones, and Whispers of Eternity, and a bunch of other ones. But Awake um, is you can get it on. Um, well, there's something called Gaia.com now where you can
Yeah,
get.
yeah, yeah. I have a subscription.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I just got the subscription. I think yeah, it's awesome, but it's on there. It's called Awake, and but anyways, I didn't mean to interrupt you. So you were talking about
Yeah.
Yogananda.
Yeah, so these guys are real authentic teachers who came from here. Back before the British time, we had Gurukula systems. Gurukul is like, you have the master who would sit under the tree and the students would sit around him, and teachings were that way. But then after the imperial governance, all of our traditions kind of got wishwashed. We got whitewashed by the white man, and we had the white man's burden was put on us. We had to become civilized and civilize our future generations. And basically, there's a lot of mess after the British left as well. So, and not just that, India was not only imperialized by the British, but we were also conquered by, many different kingdoms. And by the way, India was were different kingdoms. It was not one country. When different imperialists came in, not just the British, like you had Mughals and all of these guys who came in, they kind of watered down our culture and took away a lot of our books and tore it up. And there's a lot of stuff that happened over time that our teachings got down kind of lost. You know what I mean? It's like a lot of the ancient knowledge is still there, but a lot of it is missing. So some of these teachings like Yogananda and so many of them. One of my favorites is um, I'm trying to capture his name, but it's kind of going out of my head right now. But all of there are a lot of teachings who talk about self-inquiry, understanding who is the self. Is my mind the self, or am I somehow different from my mind? So these are really authentic teachings that come from here, because back in ancient India, we had so much wisdom, and I believe that we had access to higher technology. The reason why I say this is because it's in our texts. We have
Yeah,
a text called Vimanaka Shastra, which talks about flying saucers, right?
yeah.
Vimanas and ancient technology and anti-gravity. And our languages, like my mom is a traditional South Indian classical singer. She
Oh,
sings
cool.
South Indian classical music. And if you study that music, it's pure maths. So we call it raga. It's a series of notes. Each raga can actually determine the time or the distance between Earth and a certain planet, Earth and the Moon. It's crazy symbols and coding put inside the music and inside the language. Like Sanskrit itself can be used to code. It's powerful coding sort of language. So I believe in ancient India, there's so much wisdom. Absolutely. When you say I want to come to India, The energies are still lot of it is there. But modern India is very noisy, as you may have seen online. There's a lot of population and religion. So I wouldn't say India is the place to come and just meditate. Yes, there are places you can go to do that, but cities and stuff like that is not as connected as if I went to Sedona in USA. It's the Earth's energy is also moving a lot in USA. And back in the day, I'm speaking a lot, but I'm just gonna close it a bit. Back in the day, the West had Puritans, right? The ideas of sex and different things. The West was very close to it. They didn't want to talk about it. It was a hush hush thing. While the East, we had our texts all about it, and we had yeah, exactly. Sex was an open topic here. But then now what's happened is that the Earth's energies have gone back. It's like the cycle, right? And now the West is kind of open to all of this stuff, and the East is closed up, right? So these cycles kind of go in and out. So I think wisdom is kind of something that's not limited to one energy point of energy grid. I think it's things you can tap into in different places. But if you're being called to come to India, I would go, not saying that India is where my spiritual enlightenment will come from, because you can be enlightened in your bathroom, because enlightenment is an inner journey. It has nothing to do with the energies, But I would go to study some things from the ancient Indian traditions. Those are very, very powerful. And I think Hitler and during that whole Third Reich movement, when you had the Holocaust and all of that, they actually they actually came to India to study our ancient texts and take back information for their technology. And even today in Germany people speak Sanskrit. In Austria people speak Sanskrit. So people came and took our stuff basically.
Yeah.
So it's passed all over the place.
Yeah, you were talking about the ragas and the you know who Anushka Shankar is, right?
Yeah.
I saw her in concert, and I was really familiar with her. I was a fan of her dad's, and I knew them from the Beatles from the time I was in high school, and so that's how I got kind of introduced to him, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
But that concert, it was like her like classical Indian concert. I know she does like some more modernish stuff too. But this was just classical, and it really blew my mind. And I had heard a lot of it before, but being there live and like just watching, I was just talking about this last night with them. But it was like when they were playing, and it was like like my vision changed. Like I'm watching, and I don't know if it was like third eye thing or some kind of, but it was like I was like watching with I mean perfectly straight. I don't drink or smoke or anything, like I don't do any kind of drugs but it was just like this
you were high basically.
transitional, yeah, like
spiritually one with the entire room.
I mean it was really cool.
And what they play is a lot of it. So they do a lot of Hindustani music. Hindustani is like classical music from the north. And what we do, so we come from the south. South India and North India are very different. So a lot of people think India is like one, culture. Very, very different cultures. In fact, if you came to my city and just drove down 100 kilometers, or in your case you would say miles, right? Let's say you drove down 200 miles, you'll see a new culture. The people look different, the music is different, the food is different, the language is different. You take the same route, on the left side or the west, and you'll find. So India is filled with different traditions, different culture, different dances, different music. So we in the south have something called as Carnatic. Carnatic is the South Indian classical. That's from the Dravidian era. Okay, so the original people from the south were called Dravidians, and the guys in the north came from the Aryans. Okay, those are the fair-skinned guys. So we look different as well. So Hindustani music is very influenced with, um, external influences like from the guys like some of the Mughals and the guys who came and took over, started ruling the country. A lot of their musical influences there in North Indian music and Hindustani music. But in South Indian music, Carnatic, we have different instruments, different everything. So we have percussions and stringed instruments, but completely different. And our style of singing is whole other universe to the North Hindustani music. So you should definitely think of listening to some of the South Indian, because that's where the Sanskrit roots and the Dravidian roots comes from. It's very scientific music.
Yeah, can you recommend a few like bands or musicians?
Well, okay, I could, but I would suggest you just go online and type Carnatic music. Okay,
How do you
Carnatic.
spell that? How do you spell that?
I'll put that in the chat 1 second. So I'm
Okay.
just going to type it on the chat, and there's a chat box right below on your panel. I'll just put that in here.
Okay.
Carnatic,
Okay,
Carn.
I see.
Carnatic music, yes. So
Yeah.
definitely something, and it's very different from Hindustani. Hindustani music uses a lot of sitar and tabla and
Mm-hmm.
these kind of instruments. South Indian music, Carnatic uses something called mridangam, which is like it's like this tube-like drumming instrument, and we have something called as veena. Instead of the sitar, we use a veena. So sitar is played this way, veena is played this way. It's like sideways. So it's kind of like a side bass cello kind of thing, but it's a stringed instrument. And so these are very subtle differences, but definitely form of music to listen to. Very calming. And Carnatic is very devotional. So music was written for the gods and for the great saints. And so these are very powerful energies.
Okay, so would that be like be like the Hanuman Chalisa, or is that
That's
a completely different?
that's no, those are called, so that's a whole other form of music, devotional music. Those are called bhajans or kirtans, which
Mm-hmm.
will have like from the texts put into music. Carnatic is something that's composed originally from artists and composers.
Okay.
So which you kind of reproduce using the raga. So it's a very complicated system of metrics. It's very scientific and mathematical, which I don't have the mathematical intelligence, but it's very complicated. Yeah, but Hanuman Chalisa and stuff is actually written and it's sung. So from the texts, and that's again devotional to Hanumanji, who's one of the Hindu gods. So those are different, and I do a little bit of kirtan in my music, and a little bit of reggae. For me, it's like now I'm mixing the two. I'm doing kirtan and reggae together. So it's just what's inspired.
Yeah, I like what you play. You have a really good voice and
Thank you.
cool style. And yeah, I was looking like, 'cause I have like one of my Ravi Shankar CDs. Like he explains like what he's doing in the math, and it's like, 'cause I play guitar, but it's like I'm not near that complicated. But it's amazing how it all works together and like what it does to what it does to you.
Yeah.
And like being it, I mean, I like a lot of Western music too, like awesome guitar players and stuff. But there's just like something about like when, like just gonna sit and they're gonna play for like maybe a half hour, one song or one raga as it would, I guess, more technically be called. And you just like get like absorbed into it and the math and it's, and then I could see at the concert like the way they kind of like kept a beat, like their hand would be like an up for one thing and then down for another, and they're like making these like different hand signals, and you had like somebody keep
Yeah.
And
That's in Carnatic music as well. They call it talam or beat. So you have many different, so that's another mathematical thing. You have many different types of talams and beats. And one very famous one is you'll see them going with the pinky finger first. They go 1, 2, 3, 4, and then 1, 2. This is called Adi Talam. It's 8 beats. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. That's your 4 by 4. Yeah, in Western music, you'll call it 4 by 4. So that's Adi Talam, and then for different types, for different, you have your, music, right? You have different beats. So you have different talents for that. So, but the music is vibrationally tuned in. So in ragas, there's certain ragas have certain frequencies. You have certain ragas, like back in the kings, when there used to be kingdoms, you'd have people like musicians called to bring rain to the kingdom, like if there was a drought or something, because it could manipulate the vibration of the physical reality to bring rain. Some ragas can emotionally make you cry, can make you happy, So everything is frequency. But, even Hebrew traditions, even the church, their choir systems all based on certain frequencies. Like when you enter you enter a church, and they start singing with their harmonies, right? You start feeling different chakras in your body start attuned to that. So
Yeah, it's really powerful. Will you play something for us? I think I see a guitar in the background. Will you play something?
I could, but what do you want me to say? Something kirtan like?
Whatever you feel like playing.
Okay, I could do that. Let me just switch off my video real quick to get my guitar. 2 seconds.
Okay.
You can keep the videos streaming.
Yeah.
Okay. So it's super early in the morning, so I haven't done any warm-ups. But since you politely asked, I'll try something. So let me just see this. 1 second. You need to pause again, okay?
Okay. Okay. You're back on.
Okay, so Ryan has asked me to play some music, and I'm thinking of playing one of my renditions of. So there is a Hindu text called Devi Mahatmyam, and there is a line from there. Actually, not a line, but it's a bunch of lines, and it's about. So we in Hinduism there is something called a Devi. Devi is the name for the goddess, the female goddess of feminine energy. So Devi, she manifests as many things, right? So this song is about how Devi manifests as your intelligence and your beauty and your humility and all of these different attributes of the divinity, which we all have. Okay, so that's what it is. So I will sing a little bit of it. It's my rendition of it. Namaste, 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 namo namaha. Namaste, 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 namo namaha. Ya Devi sarvabhuteshu prema-rupena samsthite. Ya Devi sarvabhuteshu tripti-rupena samsthite. Ya Devi sarvabhuteshu shanti-rupena samsthite. Namaste, 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 namaste. Namaste, namo namaha. Namaste, 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 namo namaha. Now I'll sing in English. Walk on over to the other side. We rise from the fears inside. With love in our hearts, we move on to shine. Divinely guided, we praise her name. Namaste, namaste,
Yeah, thanks for doing that. I was hoping that you would sing something for us. So,
Something Kirtan, English mix, fusion style.
you should teach me how to sing sometime.
Yeah, anytime if I have the time. So yeah. Okay, I think that's good. I think we can wrap it up at that.
Sounds good to me. Yeah, we've been going over an hour here. That was really good. It goes fast. Thank you for being on. And how can people get a hold of you? Like, what projects do you have going on? How can
Okay.
people get a hold of you?
Okay, so one is that they can visit my YouTube channel, which is Synchroshakti. So YouTube/Synchroshakti, that is one. The projects going on right now is my mindfulness 5-week online classes. So you can join from anywhere. Happens like this on Zoom. Definitely a class that it's imperative. Like if you genuinely want to follow the spiritual path, but from that space of freedom first, it's a very important class to take. So that is one of the things. The other one is that so there is one website, but I won't give you the address to that one because I'm building a new one.
Okay.
So that one, just wait, I'll tell you when that comes live. But just for now, just get to my YouTube channel. And if anyone wants to write to me personally, just synchroshakti@gmail.com for now. I'm keeping it more informal for now, but as soon as the new website comes out next week, the email address will be different. But for now, you can just contact me at synchroshakti@gmail.com.
Sounds very good. Do you have any parting words for everyone, or how?
Enjoy your life. That just came up in the moment. I didn't want to give any complicated teaching. I just wanted to say enjoy your life. You have one life and be happy. That's all there is to it. Nothing more than that to spirituality. Just all good.
Yeah. All right. Very cool. Thank you very much for being on. If anybody wants to get a hold of me about the show, it's fitnessandconsciousness@gmail.com. And thank you again for being on. And we'll stop the recording. Then I'll talk to you for a second off the recording.
Sure.
All right. Thanks again.
Thank you.